Hi everyone. So today I'm going to give a little lesson about chakras, sort of like Chakra 101. Now, chakras are energy bodies that line up in the physical body. There's 5 in the spine, 2 in the brain. And chakra in English means wheel. And chakras are discs that spin at a certain frequency, and they're supposed to spin at a certain set frequency. And when they stop spinning at that frequency, it causes disharmonious things to happen in the body, either mentally, physically, emotionally. So when we understand how to bring balance into that energy system, we start to feel better and feel good. The energy flows as it should. And chakras get blocked through many different things, through illusions of the ego, how we're sensing our outer world. So things that have happened to us in our past that are hold on to in the subconscious level, those are called a samskara, if I could say that. So samskara, how we hold on to that energy, and it sort of blocks the other energy. Can block our chakras and how we process our reality through our senses. So when we can process that vibration of reality without distortion, then we feel better and good, more stable and harmonious in our lives. And without going into too much detail, each chakra lines up with like a note on the music scale. So think of a music scale if somebody's playing a beautiful piece of music and it's very harmonious. That's how all chakras should spin together. But oftentimes you get a few that are out and it's sort of like somebody's not playing the keys correctly and it's very distorted. So that's how we're experiencing then our reality when our chakras become blocked. So to start with the subtle body, we experience our outer worlds first through our aura or our energy field. So we have this energy field that surrounds us, and that's our first contact to the outside world that brings that vibrational energy of the outside world into the senses. And so we get this information from that vibration because everything is vibrational energy. We look solid, everything around us looks solid, but if we could see through a microscope, everything is vibrating. So we vibrate as well, and if we're vibrating harmonious, we attract. So that law of attraction, we attract more harmonious experiences into our life. When we're not vibrating harmoniously, we attract things that are not on that good level. So we end up experiencing things that are not pleasant in our experience. So it's all about what we want to see on the external world, right? And what we bring in, and it's sort of a back and forth between that vibration of how we're experiencing it and what we put out. So we have that energy field. So that brings it into our energy channels, and without going into too much about nadis, because it's Chakras 101. So we have these energy channels that filter the information through each of the 7 chakras of the physical body. So once we channel that energy in and through, depending on whether or not the chakras are spinning the way they should be, or whatever we're processing through either samskara or ego, that information can become stuck. And then we can either create emotional disturbances through that energy or physical disturbances. If we let that energy stay blocked long enough, it becomes a physical problem. So chakra, those energy bodies line up in major nerve plexuses of the physical body. So major nerve plexuses, and chakras also line up with the endocrine system. And our endocrine system is what releases hormones throughout the body. And sometimes we know if hormones aren't working, there's too many, not enough, that causes problems for the physical body. So chakras are tied to endocrine system as well. So as I said before, there's 7 of them in the physical body. So I'm going to go over where they are, what they control, when we're balanced, when they're not balanced, emotionally, physically. And at the end, I'm going to give just a little lesson of how we can sort of bring balance into them when we're working on those underlying issues mentally that are causing that blockage. So it's not like we can give up past traumas or past things up in a day. Some things take a lifetime to heal from. But when we can bring that into focus, like, yeah, this is why I feel this way. from a past experience or by our working with our ego self, then when we work through those things, there's other things we can do in the meantime to help keep that vibration as it should. So we'll talk a little bit about that. So the first chakra is in the base of the spine, and it's the first part of the body created in utero, and it's called the Muladhara, or the root chakra. So Muladhara means basis. I can't talk today. Muladhara means the basis of existence. So it's our basis of existence. So what do we need to exist? Food, water, shelter, right? Security. So through our physical, it's our physical experience, and our physical body is really tied to this chakra because it's our basic needs being met, and we're secure in our existence. So oftentimes our root chakra may not be balanced if we're going through a major life change, such as changing jobs, changing homes, changing relationships, maybe having a baby, maybe losing a person in our life. So I always say, like right now in these times, a lot of people's root chakras are not balanced because it's so much uncertainty in what's going on in our world right now. So we might not know. I don't know if I'm going to teach yoga next week, next month. I still don't know. So I'm sure I have a lot of root chakra issues going on right now, but it's not becoming a physical problem for me yet. So that's when we really need to work with that. When it becomes a physical problem or even an emotional problem, we're worried about losing things, and we're worried about the future and our security. We're not secure in our physical life. We're worried about losing life, or we're fearing death, or we're worried about losing things, or not having enough food, or not having enough money and stuff like that. So it's really tied to this material world. And when we're balanced, we feel secure. We feel supported. We feel, we have a good existence and a good grip of where we are, and we're not going to lose things. So oftentimes when people have had maybe a traumatic childhood, or they've gone through periods of starving or not having those things, and when they do get them, they're afraid to give them up so freely, and it can become a physical problem. Oftentimes when it is a short-term change, the chakra will balance itself once we find that stable ground and that stability. Once that job, we know it's working out, or we like where we live. We moved in the house, and we're secure and settled, and we have everything put away in our homes. But it's when we are afraid of losing that security that it becomes a physical problem. So oftentimes it becomes a physical problem since it's where it's located. And so where the root chakra is located is, like I said, it's in the base of the spine. So from there, if it's a chronic problem in our blocked root chakra, we can get leg issues, blood issues. We can get it's tied. So remember I said an endocrine system, so it's tied to our adrenal glands. So we're always in the state of fight or flight. Think about that. If we're always like you're scared or wanting to fight, if something happens to us, or if we're always running away from things, or we have that adrenal gland problem because those hormones aren't regulated appropriately in the adrenal system. If we're blocked chronically, we can have bone issues or arthritis, because remember, it's a physical element. So also each chakra is tied to an element. So root chakra is an earth element. So think of what our body's made from, earth elements. So if there's a disturbance in that energy, the earth elements in our body may not be taking up appropriately. The bones might not be picking up calcium and all those things. So root chakra spins at a vibration of, I wrote it down, 432 hertz. So think about hertz as a vibration, and I think there's 60 hertz per minute. And get that math done, right? So 432 hertz is how it's supposed to spin. So how many cycles per minute? And So that's when it's harmonious, and if it can go too fast or too slow or stop completely, and then we need to work on that. So root chakra, Muladhara, basis of existence. So going on up, so right above the root chakra is our sacral chakra, or the Svadhisthana chakra. So Svadhisthana means the seat of life. So if you take it a step up, the Svadhisthana chakra is right where the reproductive system is. And so think of it as the seat of life, right? Where life is created. And it's that energy, right? So we have our basic needs being met, our emotions. So we have that emotion of how we're reacting to our reality or how we're responding to it. So we can either have stable emotions, or we can have out of control, crying, arguing, angry, and all those other not so good emotions from that if we're not balanced. So our emotions, our sexuality comes from that place. How we, create, we can procreate from that energy. And we also create from that energy of that. So when we're blocked there, we might have a problem with procreation. We might have a problem having children, or we might have a problem with not being creative enough. We might have a problem with our sexuality and things going on with that. We might have a problem with our emotions. So those are a lot of the things that can happen when we're blocked in that sacral chakra. And if we feel that, we start to feel those things too long, maybe we're not stable in our emotions, we grew up with, that energy around us and how we process with our emotions through our reality, it could become a physical problem again. So we might have reproductive problems because the endocrine system is the sexual organs. So we might have a problem with reproduction. We might have a problem with our sexuality and how we feel on the desirable level, if we feel not desirable enough, or too desirable. Our hips, we might have a lot of hip tightness, hip problems. I used to teach a lot of menopausal women. I'm getting there myself, but they always, when I'm like asked what they wanted to do for the day, it would be like, oh, hip openers. I want to do hips. They always want to work on their hips because they're going through that, and that is a change, right? That is a change where your body, your hormones are changing in that system, and that system can be blocked. That energy is not processing the way it should through things like that. But then it can go back into balance once everything stables out. But it's when it doesn't, then we have to work on those issues. So hip, lower back pain, sciatica comes from this area because remember sacral chakra. So we get a lot of sciatica. We can work on those issues maybe that are causing that. Like why am I so emotional? I don't know, going back into those samskara things. So the element there is water. So think about flowing, everything letting flow, letting the emotions flow. Sometimes we get stuck on an emotion and it becomes too big to handle. And then we, lose our wits about us because we're so overwhelmed. So letting things flow. Think about water and flowing. So, and it vibrates at a frequency of 480 hertz. So again, a little bit faster than our root chakra. And so that's the sacral chakra. And next we have our solar plexus. So right at the navel, our solar plexus, or the Manipura. And Manipura in English means lustrous gem. So it's sort of our powerhouse, right? If you take Pilates, Pilates, I teach it once in a while, powerhouse. It's our power, our personal power. Whether we exert it too much. There's people who are very power hungry and they put too much power out, they're controlling, right? Or there's people who are very withdrawn and lack the power, lack self-esteem. So Manipura, right at the navel there, lustrous gem. So it's our power when in balance for transformations, for confidence, balanced power, as I said. But then when we get blocked there, we talked about it, lack of self-esteem or controlling. We have that problem with going with our gut feeling. Think about it. Or, our gut gives us a lot of information of how we process the world, so we don't go with that gut instinct. Lack of confidence, or we're overconfident. We're overzealous of things. So our manipura, solar plexus. So the endocrine system for that is our pancreas. So how we digest things, how we can digest even, not just food, because it's there in our gut, but how we digest our world and how we break it down. Sometimes we have a hard time digesting what's going on, and it gets stuck and we get blocked. So the element is fire. So fire changes. We have to allow changes in our lives. We can't have control over everything. I wish I could. But having that transformation, allowing transformations to happen in life, and allowing those stages and those steps to transformation, not just physically, just emotionally, mentally, allowing that transformation to happen through fire. Sometimes we have to be put through the fire in order to transform. So allowing that burning, right, that burning transformation to help us evolve on a conscious level and physical. So what else can I say? Oh, so if we're blocked physically, right, if we're chronically blocked and we have power issues or control issues or self-esteem issues or all those things, we can start to get gut issues, digestional. There's anything to do with the digestion system. So our intestines, our stomach, we might have ulcers. Think about if you're worrying over things because we're uncertain, we're worried about, not being good enough or all those things. We can get sick over it. Stress comes from there. We can be fearful from there. Lower back issues, lower back pain, right? All comes from that. So when we have that block, solar plexus, then we start to get those kinds of liver issues come from there. So think about that, like, oh no, I have that issue. What's going on with me energetically? That's how I felt when I first learned all these things. So, and the vibration is 528 hertz. So that's how it's supposed to spin. And we'll talk a little bit more about hertz and what they can do for us in a little bit when it comes to sound. So that's how it should spin. So solar plexus. Moving up, anahata, our heart, right? And that's an obvious one, our love space. How do we love? So anahata means unstruck, right? Unstruck. And this is where we hold empathy, compassion, unconditional love. This is an obvious one where we know where we've been hurt, maybe. This is, we can understand our samskara from this place. Like, yeah, I really got burned, in a relationship a long time ago, and now you're guarded. So oftentimes we can create apathy. We're not empathetic to anybody. We're really closed off. Lack of compassion. Lack of self-love. Maybe we were never taught how to love ourselves, so we're blocked there because how can you love anybody else if we don't love yourself? I always feel that when it comes to that chakra, like we're so hard on ourselves. We might tell ourselves negative things all day long, so how can you find a healthy relationship outside of that if we can't even have a healthy relationship with our own being, with our own self? So and sometimes we can become codependent, where we depend on others for love. We're looking on the outside for something to love us, and we get into situations, unhealthy relationships that way. Or I have a few dogs. My dogs, I could be looking for them to fill a void or something in the love area, but that's not true. But I love my dogs. But seeing it as that way, like, we have too many, we might look on the outside for somebody to fill that love or something to fill that love void. because we don't love ourselves. So when we start to get physical disturbances through a blocked chakra, heart problems, obviously, circulation problems, right? And we can't let that energy flow around. Lungs, right? We can have lower respiratory system issues. Arms, it's tied to our arms. So anything to do with our arms all has to do with our heart chakra being blocked, and upper back. So if you have pain a lot in your upper back, it could be from a blocked heart chakra. The element is air. So air, breezy, and going, again, everything's flowing when it comes to element. So letting the air, that air, because we breathe in that element. And where is it at? Our heart chakra. So the endocrine system is the thymus system. So our thymus system is where the T cells, when we're kids, before we grow up, that's where our T cells are all formed. And then as we get older, it doesn't do much anymore. And we have those T cells circulating. That's our immunity. So our immune system is tied to that heart chakra. So if we're always having a broken heart, or we're sad, we feel not loved, our immune system might not work so well because we're so stressed out over those things, right? So vibrates at 594 hertz. So that's how it should spin. And so moving on up, we have our throat chakra, right? Or Vishuddha. And Vishuddha means especially pure. How often do we have especially pure language? I am one to say I don't. I work on it. I work toward it. And then oftentimes I fall off the wagon when it comes to that. But especially pure. Speaking your truth. Being authentic. And it's hard in Western society to be all those things, to speak our truth and authentically of who we are. And we're so much fighting against who we are. Like for me, I don't dye my hair anymore, right? I get called ma'am all the time, but that's who I am. I'm getting older. And, if I were to dye it or whatever, it's not like living a lie. It's not that, but am I being authentic? That's what I tell myself. And it's not really, why am I doing it? Am I doing it to make myself, to be happy on the inside, or am I doing it for outside reasons? So it's like you have to look at the reasons why you're doing those things and speaking your truth. Are you doing it because it makes you feel good, makes you happy on the inside, without somebody making a comment or a compliment? We're not looking for that on the outside. You're doing it from within. So living your truth, living from truth, how you speak is so important. If we're cussing all the time and we're talking negatively, even without speaking, and the internal dialogue that goes on in your mind, how clean is that? Or is it like, oh man, I can't do this, I'm so stupid, or I'm never good enough, or I'll never be, I see a lot of negativity out there with, people, self-doubt and all those things. So cleaning up our verbal vibration, because that's our biggest vibration we put out into the universe, is our voice. So how do you want it to sound? How do you want that to bounce back to you? Right? So Vishuddha, when we're not living our truth and we're not authentic and we can't express ourselves, but sometimes we might have grown up in our childhood where we were not allowed to speak up for ourselves, or not allowed to speak our voice. So we hold on to that samskara later on, where we're like afraid to speak up for ourselves because we were told to be quiet. So that's something we might need to work through on that energetic level. And we might have a chronically blocked throat chakra. So if our throat chakra is chronically blocked, we get obviously ear, nose, and throat issues, right? Sinuses, chronic throat infections, neck pain, ear infections. All that is tied into that system because we hear and then we speak. So all that vibration that goes on in there can be blocked through a blocked throat chakra. So think about those things on the physical level. It's tied to our thyroid gland. So our metabolism comes from there, how we metabolize, how the body metabolizes. So think about thyroid problems could be an issue as well, because that's the endocrine it's tied to. The element is ether. Ether is the space. So think about when you're speaking, or even when you're listening to those waves of vibration, it has to travel through the space to get to you, right? So through space. So ether is the space in between the elements, in between the particles, right? So ether is the element for our Vishuddha. So our voice and our expression, self-expression. And then moving on up, almost there, our third eye, the Ajni, right? Ajni. Let's see, Ajni means beyond wisdom. So we always hear about our third eye and that inner intuition and that inner wisdom and that inner guidance, that inner voice, right? Some of us are blocked completely, or they talk about a calcified third eye, pineal gland or whatever. But so our third eye is our intuition, right? Our inner wisdom and inner guidance. Are we guided from within, or are we just so overwhelmed with what's going on outside of us that we're, moving through those vibrations instead, going with what somebody tells us or what others tell us, or our external beliefs, right? And we're not really going with that inner connection, our inner voice of our purpose of being here in this physical existence, connecting to that energy, right? So when we're blocked there, we don't sense our purpose of this life. We just go through the motions, or maybe we're just living somebody else's life where, we have the house and the car and the relationship, but our inner voice is crying to live in a mountain somewhere. But we don't feel that that's the right thing to do. We're ignoring that voice, pushing it down, and then, we just go with the flow of what we feel society wants us to do. A lot of mental disturbances come from this if we're blocked as well. So paranoia, overthinking. We're indecisive. We can't, control our thoughts. We have a lot of racing thoughts when we have a blocked third eye chakra. So on the physical level, we can get as you can see, you can tell in a minute, like, oh, Melissa has a blocked third eye because she wears glasses. And, right, so I have eye issues and headaches. So we might get, headaches here in the front of the head. So trying to think. So when it's balanced, we have a good memory. We have, we can transcend the ego a little bit more, not live from that, external world. We live the other way. So it's tied to the endocrine gland of the pituitary gland. So that's the master gland. It controls a lot of the other glands, right? It's like sort of like the control center of the rest of the endocrine system. So we want to make sure we keep that endocrine system healthy. So and it vibrates at 720 hertz. And I don't think I said, so the throat chakra, I forgot that, vibrates at 672 hertz. So going back to that. So third eye, 720 hertz is how fast it should spin. And finally, we have the crown chakra, the Sahasrara. So the Sahasrara is right in our fontanelle when we were babies at soft spot. And the meaning is 1,000-petaled lotus. So opening up to that's sort of our infinite wisdom, how this directly connects to the vibration of the universe and that universal source energy, universal consciousness. And so when we're blocked in that area, we are disconnected from our soul purpose. We're disconnected from that energy. We're more connected on the physical plane. So we might lack spirituality. We might not be connected with a higher source of universe, God, whatever it is that we believe in. We are disconnected from unity. So when we have it balanced, we have a strong nervous system. We're united, we feel connected, but then there's that disconnect when it's not spinning the way it should. Mental disorders, again, like schizophrenia, come from here. We might be fearful, memory learning problems like Alzheimer's and things like that. As we age, we get that disconnection from universal source, and it's more about the physical then. We can't transmit that energy clearly, and we might see a lot of these people who are really stuck in that crown chakra as odd, talking like they're from outer space, and they don't make any sense to us because they're so stuck in that element, that energy, that they can't transmit it down on the physical level. So physical disorders from a blocked crown chakra, again, it could be neurological disorders, seizures and such, schizophrenia, delusional, depression, again, headaches. And the endocrine gland that's tied to is the pineal gland. So the pineal gland produces melatonin in our sleep cycles and our rhythms, our sleep rhythms. And when we're disconnected from that, we don't get into that deep sleep state. That's the only time our ego mind is not doing anything, or subconscious. It's like when the mind is most still in that deep sleep state. And when we never get to that, I don't know if you know, for me, when I'm not getting a deep sleep, I feel like, I feel mentally stressed out, not so much on the physical level, but I get more irritable, more of those energies, I get bothered by things a whole lot more when I don't get appropriate amount of sleep, because my brain hasn't had time to sort of shut itself down and clear itself out. So when we have blocked crown chakras, we might have problems with sleeping as well, and not letting that, because it's all based on light and light energy. So we're light bodies, and so each chakra is related to a color on the spectrum, because think of our body as like a prism, and so that light, that white light, filters through, and each chakra then breaks it down into a color on the spectrum, starting with the root chakra as red, and then it works itself all the way up to white or violet. And talking about hertz and the frequencies of each chakra should spin at, so we can do some things to bring balance into those chakras while we are working on those underlying issues of what has caused those chakras to be blocked in the first place, right? And that's not something I can even describe to anybody, what happened in your life that can cause that blockage. That's an introspective thing that you need to look within yourself. And sometimes we're in denial about it. We're like, no, this is silly, weird. But when I do read chakras, I get a lot of, how did you know this? And oftentimes when I read chakras, I don't know the individuals. So I would have no clue of knowing those things, but it's just on that energetic level I connect to. And you have to know from within yourself and want to change that. If you don't, great. This is just a little lesson. If you do, really work with those things. But in the meantime, how we can bring balance to chakras is through our physical senses. So there's many different things, and what works for me might not work for you when it comes to bringing that vibration back through the physical senses to each chakra. Some of the common ways we can bring balance into the chakras are crystals. I'm holding on to one right now. So this is calcite. Different crystals for each chakra. So Google has a massive information of what can balance each chakra, and then it's like, ooh, what crystal works for you? What works for you? So crystals, the reason they bring balance is they have their own vibrational energy to them. They look solid, they look like a rock, but when you hold on to them, they vibrate at specific frequencies. So when we hold on to them, we're touching, right? And when we're touching, our hands have a lot of nerve endings, and obviously chakras are connected to the nervous system. It can bring balance into, or we can even place, I do that too, sometimes I lay down and place that that crystal on specific chakra point. So we can do things like that and just have it laying there or holding on to it or having it in our pocket or something to bring balance to energy. So there's millions of different crystals. And so you can just Google crystal for root chakra, and then you'll find like a whole bunch. There's so many resources out there. And another way we can bring balance is through smell. Smell is a good way to bring balance in because it's like boom, right there, directly to your brain. So like an essential, I don't know what this is, cedarwood, root chakra stuff. So through smell. So diffusing essential oils or putting a little bit on essential oil can help bring that vibration through smell, because that's what you're sensing. It'll bring that vibration back. Through visualization, so color. Each chakra has a color. So starting with the root, red, sacral orange, solar plexus yellow, heart green, blue, indigo, violet, or white. So maybe you want to wear the color or look at the color or be surrounded by the color. You might notice you're drawn to a color already and you're like, oh, I didn't even know that. Like, and then you're, wow, now you're going to hold more information and looking it up today. So color or yantra. So we know about mantra. We'll get to that. But yantra is something sort of like when you're meditating, you can look at like an image to bring vibration through sight. So yantra, or even gazing at a candle, or looking at the elements, looking at the trees and looking at nature, bringing balance in that way. And then what else do we have? Mudra, right? So we can do, like I said, our hands have nerve endings, so we can hold a mudra for a specific chakra. So we can balance energy that way. It's more balance are those energy channels, but we can balance chakra through. We can balance what's causing the chakra to be blocked by that, by touch. Taste. There's many different elements that we can eat or drink to bring balance back into our chakras. For example, our root chakra, think of like eating a root vegetable, like a carrot, onion, beet, all those things that are earthy. We can choose to eat foods like that. So taste. So all these things. And then finally, mantra. Listening to those vibrational frequencies I keep forgetting to tell you about for each one. So listening, there's plenty of resources of listening. You can just listen to a specific pitch meant for that each chakra. Each chakra has a sound to it. So a seed sound like lam, vam, ram, yam, ham, om. So you can listen to any of those kinds of vibrations, whatever works, or even chanting a mantra can help because you're listening to it and speaking it as well. So think about mantras really good for throat chakra because you're expressing. So there's many different things. Those are some of the few that can help. Think about senses and what's pleasing to them and what senses connect to each chakra to bring that balance back into that system while you're working on that sanskara. So chakras in a nutshell. And I didn't say Swahasrara vibrates at 768. So it's one little piece I keep forgetting to tell you guys about is the vibrations. But if you look it up, you'll see each vibrational range. The heart actually has 3 tones to it, if you look into that a little bit more. But that goes into like the next level of chakra. So I hope that explains some things. Chakra 101. I've gone on for a long time, longer than I wanted to. So I hope you guys stuck with me through this whole thing. And if you have any questions, always feel free to comment or ask me directly. And I'd be happy to answer those questions for you. So until then, the spirit in me bows to and respects the spirit in you and all living beings. And thank you for joining me today. Namaste.